So I always say that, Palestine ended up being like the Achilles heel for DEI. October 7th became the Achilles heel. Like, we already had criticisms of it because it was so corporatized. It was so deeply embedded in capitalism. Like, as soon as you start seeing DEI becoming like this slogan, like very capitalistic kind of slogan, and it's all about optics and not really about improving the lived experiences of the people you claim to care about, then it becomes hollow. It's basically industrial, identity politics, right? Like, it just became about identity representation. The inclusion was there. The equity absolutely wasn't there. So with Palestine, what happened was all the contradictions started to come to the surface, where we had made all these statements about Ukraine, right? All these DEI departments were raising money, fundraising for Ukraine. And I remember even at the time thinking to myself, I wonder how the Russian students feel, right? Because we're really taking a side here and we're demonizing a community. Now, aside from the politics of it all, but if we're really going to look at this from a DEI perspective, you are isolating a group by putting another group in this spotlight of moral superiority, right? So when that happened, and nobody really minded because everybody was like, yeah, Ukraine. And then, all the atrocity propaganda was coming out, the crisis of beheaded babies, all of that was happening. And then statements were initially made about Israel, and then nothing was said about Palestine. All of a sudden, it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This does not seem like DEI. And the contradictions were very, very clear. And so I say that Palestine became the litmus test because the truth is the book kind of chronicles it's called The Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of DEI. And in The Rise, we talk about all the very radical revolutionary movements historically that actually are the foundation of DEI. We didn't need this acronym in order for us to do the work. It was already being done. Anti-racism work was already being done. Anti-oppression work was already being done. DEI just became this popular acronym and it became co-opted. And then the very important part of this book that I really want to mention, the most controversial part of this book, is that I talk about how DEI was weaponized by Zionists and used to suppress other marginalized groups. And all of a sudden, Jewish supremacy showed itself, where one group not only was able to exert more power, but their victimhood was considered the greatest victimhood. They were the greatest victim, so no one else could, have that status.